Good morning. I wanted to show you how to make your nests with the wool that was in your craft kit. And so the first thing we're going to do is gather our materials. You'll need a little bowl. I'm using a small one. The smaller and deeper your bowl, the more your nest will be kind of bowl shaped. Otherwise they tend to kind of flop out. And I have a little kettle of some warm water, and I have a basin. I'll be using this to make our eggs mostly. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take your pieces of wool, and you have different colors, and you want to just kind of stretch it out and fluff it out. Just pull the pieces apart. And as you pull them apart and fluff them up, you can just kind of put them in your bowl. So I'm going to use some different colors here. I want to use a little bit of green to look like moss. And I'm going to definitely, of course, use brown. And a little gray. So yeah, this is how we'll do it. And you want to really fill your bowl pretty full with your wool. So see how this is kind of ropey? I'm going to pull off a little piece and then just pull it apart like this. And basically just fill our bowl with fluff. And you never know how this is going to turn out. It's always kind of an adventure. So we just pull that apart and fill the whole bowl. Nice and thick, sort of brimming with wool. All right. Once you have your bowl nice and full, you can begin to add a little bit of your water to it. Some hot water is what you need. Just enough so that you don't want to burn yourself, but you do want to have it pretty hot. All right. So we will pour the water in and kind of cover it. I'm going to let mine cool a little, and I'm just going to put a little bit of soap right in there while it sits and cools for me. And then once it's cool enough, then we'll start to felt it. Okay, so make sure your bowl is nice and full. Add plenty of water, and hot water, and a little bit of soap. Okay. All right, now my bowl of wool and soapy water is cool enough that I can begin to press it. So what I want to do is just kind of press it like this, carefully with my fingers. And we're gonna kind of gently rub it and press the wool into the sides and the bottom of the bowl. And we have to kind of keep doing this gently at first, just kind of pressing with our fingers until the wool begins to pull together and felt. We don't want to pull yet because that will pull our wool apart and make holes in our nest, and we don't want that, or else the eggs will roll out. And so we just kind of keep rubbing like this. And periodically, if your water gets cool, you can pour a little out and then add a little more hot water. And keep rubbing and rubbing. You'll have a big mess of soapy wool. And you just kind of keep pressing, and you can kind of turn your bowl a little as you go. kind of like you were making a little bowl with clay, and you sort of press it into the sides like this, just turning. And once it begins to really pull together, then you can kind of rub it. Rub the sides a little bit, rub the bottom. But at first you're just kind of pressing and not rubbing so much so you don't tear apart your nest. Okay, so keep on going with that. And once you have that nest and you've rubbed it and it is coming together, then you can rinse off the soap and let it dry. But this takes a little while, and you just want to keep pressing it into the sides of the bowl. So we'll see how this turns out in just a minute. Hi, so I'm back. This is my nest. It kind of wants to flatten out. I've rinsed it. It has some little spots where it kind of is dividing up. I might maybe stitch that together a little later. Yours might be a little thin at the top, and that's okay. You can always trim that. Now, it kind of wants to flatten out a bit, but I'm going to try and let it dry with a bit of its little bowl shape. I'll just kind of form it into a bowl like that and just let it dry. Okay, so there's mine. It's got lots of different colors, and it will hold a little egg that we're about to make. So I'll let that dry. Now, to make an egg, what I find is best is if you can get your mom or dad to take a little piece of wool like this and to carefully tie a knot, okay? And then sort of wrap your wool around itself. Wrap it around the knot so you have a bit of a tight little ball of your white wool. And then we're going to take thin little wisps, and maybe your mom or dad has to help with this part, and just tightly wrap it around your knotted wool like this. Now, if you want 2 eggs, divide your wool in half. If you want 3, you might get 3 little eggs. And so this is what we do. We just kind of carefully put small little wisps of wool kind of crisscrossing over your woolly knot. And the tighter you can get it, the easier this is going to be, so your wool just doesn't go in the water. You really want it to already be holding together pretty well. So make yourself a nice little ball like this. I think this is about as big as I'm going to make mine. I'll add this bit, and then that will be it. And then I'm going to take a little bit of leftover brown or gray wool from my nest, and I'm just going to lay a thin little bit over my egg. This is going to make it look like it's got a little bit of a speckle or stripes on it, just a tiny bit. Okay, and then I can roll it in my hands a little bit just to kind of get it on there. And then I very carefully dip it in the water. I need a little bit of warm water in here. Dip it in the water and maybe get my hands kind of soapy. And begin to very, very carefully roll it in my hands. Kind of like you did, and very gently kind of squeeze it like this, like you did with your felted egg. And you can already see it's beginning to look a little bit speckled. Okay, so we just kind of very gently do that. Dipping it in the water, adding warm water as we go, and gently kind of squishing and squashing it. Once it begins to pull together, we can really roll it a little harder. But right now I can do it a little bit. As long as my egg is kind of tightly wrapped, I can very gently roll it in my hands like this. And that's how we do that egg. We're going to try and get it kind of round, and in the end, if you have it perfectly round, dip it again and then try and rub one end a lot harder, and that will make that end pull together a little tighter and be a little skinnier at that end. And if you kind of rub it back and forth like this in your hands, it will become more of an oval egg shape like this. See? So just take your time doing that, and that is how you'll do your egg. I'll show you what mine looks like once it's done. All right, okay, so here is our little nest and 2 little speckled eggs. There we go. I will have a story coming up later this week, early next week, about mother and father bird building their nest. I will probably trim a little bit of these little thin bits off, but that is a pretty decent nest. I hope yours turns out well.